And welcome to the Inforunners. I'm Execute. And to my partner in crime today, the Astropub, aka Paul. How you doing, buddy? Been a while.
Doing good. How are you? Yeah, it's good to get a
Getting
good
ready.
back. So
Getting ready for that holiday, man. I gotta put my feet up on the
yeah,
beach for a week. Oh, more than a week, but
yeah.
about a month. But yeah.
So you if you're watching this, he may already be popped up on the beach with a cold brew and enjoying himself. So
Maybe I'll have to finally have one of those drinks you see in the movie where they drink out of a coconut or something like that. I don't know if that's a thing,
yes.
but yeah, we'll see. So yeah. All right. If you like this type of content, don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and yeah. Thank you to everyone that goes the extra mile on Patreon, YouTube memberships, and Twitch memberships as well. Very much for that.
It does mean a lot. All that does mean a lot.
It does indeed. All right, now that's all said and done. What is today's episode on? Today's episode is going to be on reputation. What is it going to actually do in the game, and why should you actually kind of care about it, so to speak? I think from my point of view, like if I'm giving you a real broad overview, I think it's basically leveling without having to level. You know, it's a different form of leveling, is the way I see it. So yeah.
It's levels without levels, and I know a lot of people don't realize that, like, because it's one of those things that we see a lot of is people complain about things like pay to win, right? It's a concept you hear all the time, and depending on who you're talking to, they have different beliefs on it. But this is something in there that curbs that a lot because reputation has so much effect, or will have so much effect on the game, and it currently does have a lot of effect. You can already see that direct effect right now. If you are playing the game, there are certain money-making opportunities which you will not be able to get unless you unlock it through reputation. So
yeah, it's going to be interesting too, because it's a very wide sweeping thing. Like you can, how do I put this? You can have a broad overview of UEE reputation. Then, like we're in Stanton right now, you can have a reputation with Crusader, but then by the same token, as soon as you go somewhere else, it can drop in the previous area you're in if you don't maintain it. So it's a fairly complicated series of events. So I think it kind of shows that when you go to an area, you're going to have to work into that area. That said, though, I think it'll also be if you then go back to an area previously, it may not have been maintained, but I think you'll get it back at a much faster rate and things like that. So to encourage us to move around as well, you because I think if you make it so that it doesn't come back fairly quickly, I think people will they're not going to want to move. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that the thing to understand right now is we kind of have to like look at the at reputation now and how it works, because a lot of what we see now is the blueprint for going forward. But it's kind of like a smaller version. So for those of you who don't know what reputation is, in case you haven't seen or you don't participate in it, effectively you'll see this heavily in these bounty hunting side of things and the racing side of things, where you cannot get the better missions until you get the reputation to unlock those missions. And it's usually works where you start off with a basic reputation, you get a base start where you have to do something, and then if you do well on that mission, you get other missions of that type which will pay out. And then as you do those missions that pay out, you get more reputation, and once you reach a reputation threshold, then you get another kind of next step, like a kind of a testing mission where you got to, do the next level up that kind of tests out to see if you're good at it. And then if you pass that, then you continue working on missions that pay the similar to that test level, so higher pay, and it goes forward on and on and on. And
it can even, I was going to say, it can even open up reputation with other people as you get reputation going, and there's probably going to be things like items, components, different ships behind different types of reputation. One example I can think of is just pick one, like say origin or say mining. You might have to start out with a prospector, and eventually they'll allow you to buy an Orion, or you start out in an E1, You know, you go up to then to a Genesis Starliner, and then you go along to an 890 jump, things like that. So it'll all be kind of a progression of the chosen profession or even manufacturer. It could be, you know, we'll look at it right now. You got Crusader, Hurston, you know, you've got the place, you've got the actual manufacturer, and you've actually got the items they sell, whether it be components or chips. So there's quite a few things that are locked behind there. And I wouldn't be surprised down the line, like we know certain things are coming in the game, like pets. If they ever bring in, you know, anything they bring in, I can see it very clearly being locked behind referal. And this is not an uncommon way of doing things. Like many MMOs do it, like World of Warcraft's a really good example, but I think the really key one is Freelancer, which is Chris's previous game. It's almost like essentially he's been trying to make the same two games his entire life.
He has,
you know, which is Wing Commander and Freelancer, or Star Citizen Squadron 42.
Privateer.
Yeah, Privateer. Well,
Freelancer is Privateer. It's Wing Commander and Privateer, the two ones he's trying to make, and they're different names now, but you know.
Yep.
I also comment on the ships thing. I know that I can already feel it in the comments. I can feel my comment senses tingling, where someone's being like, "What do you mean you're going to have to have a reputation to get an 890 jump?" You can think of it more like a license. You may not have the ability to purchase ships that are large ships because you don't have the license to purchase those large ships or operate those large ships, which will then put you in foul of those things. That doesn't mean you can't get those ships. It's just that if you want to get an 890 jump straight from the factory, they're not going to just sell it to any old person, or it'll give you a discount or some other ability. There are other things that can go into that fact. Another good example with this would be if you have a high enough reputation with a local area, say local Crusader security, they'll let you carry guns through security, because in the future you won't be able to carry guns into landing zones. You may not even be able to carry armor through landing zones, and so those things will help you if you're tracking down a bounty target, or if you want to be protected, or whatever you want to do doing missions. There's a lot of aspects, and that's the thing about reputation that makes it super flexible and super important for the game. It's really the hidden column of the game. It's one of the hidden pillars of the game that they don't talk about a lot, because it's one of those things they can throw at any problem they have to fix the problem. Someone's getting too much of one thing, reputation gate. Now it's going to take you some more time to get that access to that item, so you can't get that item easily.
Yeah, and I think that's really important what you've said there, because it shows how they can customize it quite a lot. So I was thinking about what you're saying about the 890 jump as an example. In real life, with Ferraris as an example, you cannot just buy a Ferrari. They ask you to buy a Ferrari. And it's the same thing in this game. Like, and the reason why I used 890 jump is it's very luxurious and fairly kind of meant to be rare. So they're not just going to sell it to anyone. So if you've done a bunch of stuff with them, they may offer you to buy one. But then say something like you said, let's look at another high-end ship like an Orion. Like you said, you could buy it at full price, or you might get a massive discount if you're a member of X mining guild, so because they get them at bulk discount. You know, so you can totally see what you were just saying makes so much sense. They will use it wherever they want to make it feel, you know, fill in those story lore plot holes, so to speak. I don't know what else to call that, but you get what I'm saying.
Well, the other thing to keep in mind about this sort of thing is that when you're dealing with reputation can be as big or as small. Like they talked about how their system is so granular that they can give a table reputation. Any object in the game can have reputation, including players. So that reputation will then follow that object around there. So that allows for them to do things like make things that, like ships have reputations that if you're using a ship, you'll probably get different discounts, or you'll be turned away from an area because you've got this specific ship or whatever. And the other thing to remember about reputation is that at its core, it will give you or prevent you from getting access to everything. It is, we're talking about ships and we're talking about equipment, but I'm talking about even like locations.
Yeah.
Like I can see in the distant future where if you do not have good enough reputation with, say, the Nine Tails, you will not be able to land at Grimhex. You know,
Absolutely.
or if you, or, you know, especially Pyro, And that comes to the next part, is that how soon will this come out? Sooner than you think, because this is all required for Pyro to make Pyro the interesting dynamic thing that they want to do, which they've talked about things like having gang wars where gangs will fight over territory. Well, in order to do that, you need to be able to have reputation with the various gangs, which will then require a robust addition to the current system, which they don't have. And on top of that, they've talked about things like removing Class A equipment from being able to be purchased. So it's either, you find it, you salvage it, or maybe it's going to be locked behind a rep gate where you can only go to certain locations. Even the F7 or the F8C, the Lightning, the civilian version of the Lightning, is going to be locked behind a reputation gate. That reputation gate is going to require you to complete Squadron 42, and then it'll give you access to purchase it in game, but that's still a reputation gate. So you can see kind of how they're already starting to think about the game in terms of reputation as well as everything else. So.
And ironically, that's exactly how it was in Freelancer. Reputation is essentially access. One of the ones I remember in Freelancer is, and I kind of asked this question a few times, is why would you want to be a pirate Star Citizen? They haven't really given us this overwhelming positive reason to be one yet, right? Like, obviously there's that fun element of actually pirating people, but what is the core benefit? Like, they're locking you out of landing zones, so they're going to give you access to other places, essentially what you said. So you've got more access in Pyro if you're a pirate than if you're a lawful player. But what else do you get? And in Freelancer, you got access to ships that you couldn't get access to on the good side, and you got access to items and components and stuff like that. And I don't think it'll be any different in this game. And one of the examples I think we've got a little bit of a tip of the hat to it was at the end of last year at AIE. Jax McCleary, in one of the videos, he was at a arms bazaar and he was talking to a guy about Vandal Weapons. Now, the UEE won't allow Vandal Weapons. They're banned. So what if that's a thing? You can get access to some banned weapons, what if there's a whole line of manufacturer components that are alien or illegally produced weapons? That's nuts. Like, that just totally changes the game for me in a lot of respects. Like, if there's this whole other side of the game that, I don't know if it's 50%, but you get what I'm trying to say? Like, there's this whole other side of the coin. It's like, light or dark side in Star Wars. It's essentially the same thing. Which side do you want to pick? And you get pros and cons to both sides. And you see that in a lot of games, don't you?
Yeah, but not just that, it's also added depth, because it's not just, are you good or are you bad? It's like, who are you associating with on the bad side? Because there's also connections with, it's a web. So you work with, say, Xenothreat will like you, and any of their allies will like you, but anybody who doesn't like them, including other outlaws, will not like you, and so they'll attack you or prevent you from access. Like, this is where the core of the Star Citizen design philosophy of trying to have meaningful choice, something they've talked about a lot. That is where it will come in with reputation. So now, I don't think it's going to come out soon. Like, I don't think we're going to see reputation as robust as this by the end of this year. But it's something to keep in mind, because it's something they need to do for 4.0. So it's 4.0 and beyond. So you're going to have to start looking at who you're dealing with on a regular basis, because if you don't, you may be pissing off the wrong person. You can't get access to things. So
it is going to be a core tenet of the game. That is 100%. As I said right at the start, it's this game's form of leveling. You can jump in day one and join your mates, but to get to where, so this is the thing I struggle with. Like, if your mates are pirates, how quickly can you go out and get bad rep to join them? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's interesting, because I think you'll be able to join them on their ships and stuff, but like, it might take you a little bit of time to grind up the rep in some areas to go join your friends. Hopefully not too much. I hopefully, like, they, there's, you've only got to have a couple of points on the bad side, and then they won't shoot you. Like, they may be really hesitant or really eyeing you off or something like that. But that's the biggest thing that was the advantage of this from back in the day, was this, you look at World of Warcraft, for example. It will take you 2 weeks to play that game before you can even start running with your mates that are at max level. you know. So it was
Yeah.
it's not just something you can and the whole reason people play, well, for me anyway, was to play with friends, you know, and you jump in and want to play with them. But I had to sit there for multiple weeks and just grind this shit out, and I just didn't find that interesting at all. I didn't
No.
have I just wanted to play with my friends. So with the advantage that in this, I think, is a lot more compelling for me. So yeah.
Yeah. It'll still have consequences. Like if your friend is a super wanted criminal, you're not going to want to be hanging out with him in Hurston, you know, because you're going to get attacked a lot, and you're going to get guilty by association as well when that sort of thing happens.
Yeah.
But you don't have to go out and become the Dread Pirate Roberts to then suddenly become to hang out with your friends, sort of stuff.
So,
and did we talk about next of kin?
No, we didn't. We should talk about that. Yeah.
Okay. The other thing to note is that when you die, reputation is inheritable. But like we said, like association and because they have that ability to have association where if you with this person, you will get some reputation changes and such. And because there is, even though you will get some reputation, you will have a degradation of reputation as you die as well.
Yeah.
So maintaining reputation is important. Simply, it's only just for, if not only just for the next of kin, because you're like, if you have max level with the UEE, say you're beloved by the UEE, you're a hero of the UEE, whatever, and then you die, your next of kin is going to have some of that, but you won't have all of that, which may lose you access to certain materials or goods that you had before, and then you have to go back and do that.
But like sins of the father and that type of thing, like, very common, like a parent gets their son or daughter or whatever a job at a particular place because of their own reputation. It's the same thing there. And by, as I said, sins of the father, it goes the other way too. So if your father was a criminal, you may be painted with the same brush, so to speak. I think the last part of this though is the maintenance of reputation. That's something else they've talked about too. Is over time, like I was saying, if you're in Crusader, you've got to maintain your Crusader rep and your UEE rep. And if you go to another system that's lawful, so to speak, you can maintain the UEE one very easily because it's in the same system. But the Crusader one will probably most likely drop a little bit because you're not there to maintain it. But again, when you go back there, because you were there previously, it'll probably come back at a much quicker rate. So it's going to be interesting to see how they balance that correctly, because I think they want people to move around. The way I would, one of the ways I'd like to see it too is like how high your UEE reputation is like if you're already a UEE person. So for example, I can't think of another. I guess I'll just use Crusader and Hurston because they're in the same system. But like, like because your UEE one's already up, the Crusader ones that are high, like, is gained at a quicker rate because you're already very high. So it's like, oh well, I know those guys and they say you're good, so I'll trust you. And yep, you're going through the motions, cool. Yep, so it goes back really quick. I'm hoping that's how it works, because they do have all those different reputation Ts where, so to give an example, that means when you initially go from good to bad or bad to good, it's really low and it's really slow going. But over time, when you eventually get that primary one to the top, everyone that you go to after that will be at a significant speed. That makes the most sense to me for how I would design it. But again,
so an initial slow grind, and then once you've chosen the side you want to go for, if you want to go hard, it's easier to just main Hurston. And it's important to note that this isn't a binary choice. This isn't good or evil. This is whoever you want to work for. And those will have reputation. That's the other maintenance thing. It's like if you work for Crusader and you also work for, say, Microtech, they'll have associations because Crusader and Microtech might have positive relations with, say, the UEE, for instance. The UEE, your reputation UE will go up as you work with those the other two organizations.
And go the other way too, though. Like working with one gang may get you access to the other gang. Bad aliens versus good aliens. Like I'm sure there's going to be bad Banu and bad Cyan and stuff like that, and so you'll get inroads with them because you were they're connected to this human crime syndicate and stuff like that. So as I said, I just don't think we've really seen the other side of the coin enough yet. but I think it's going to surprise some people. Like I keep coming back to that question a lot. Like, what is the positive reason to be a pirate? And right now in game, there is just almost no reason. You are just like blanketly chucked in jail. You are punished to the absolute ninth degree. Why would I want to do that? And you know, the other side of the coin that we haven't seen yet is when the rep comes in, it's going to help people do a lot of escorting stuff. So a lot of that P versus P that a lot of the piracy people are after at the moment, you'll have a lawful reason to want to do that PvP, you know? So. All right, Dan, I think we'll kind of wrap this up. Short and sweet one, but I do think it is something that we are all going to have to keep an eye on because it is a fundamental, as you said, a pillar of the game, almost like a hidden pillar of the game. And it's not something that a lot of people have really looked into. So, yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Where can people find you on the interwebs, Mr. Astropub?
If you want to find me with my content, like stuff like this, the Astropub, which is youtube.com/the Astropub live or twitch.tv/the Astropub. And of course, if you want to find my more lore side of stuff, then youtube.com/the Astro Historian for lore, mostly on Star Citizen, but we do other things every so often.
Okay, with that then, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. And thank you to everyone that is donated to us on Patreon and Twitch and YouTube memberships. Cool. All right, with that then, he's been the Astropub. I've been Execute. And catch you next one.
Later.